My name is Betty Brown. I am the granddaughter of Chaim Feibish, and I'm gonna tell the story how the Feibish family originated. Chaim Feibish told us how the Feibish family became the Feibish family. Many hundreds of years ago, in Russia, they passed a law that a boy that reaches the age of 10 has to go into the Russian army to serve for 25 years. In a small city in Russia, the name of the city was Tiraspol, lived a Jewish rich man who had just one only son, and he didn't want him to go into serve the Russian army. So he tried to get somebody to replace his son. He couldn't get anybody in Russia, so he went to Austria, into a city, and he tried to find a poor family who had a lot of children. He finally found a man, his name was Silverman, who had a lot of children, and he was very poor. He offered him a lot of, the name of the man who came to Austria was Feibish. He offered Mr. Silverman a lot of money to give him a boy who was going to be 10 years old. He gave him enough money to take care of his family who was starving. And he sold him a boy of 10 years old. Mr. Feibish took the boy back to Tiraspol, and he gave him his son's birth certificate. And when the time came, he gave the Silverman boy in to the Russian army to serve 25 years for his son. After the boy went into the service, Mr. Feibish took his son and his family, and he left Russia. After 25 years, this Silverman boy who was named Feibish came back to Tiraspol, and he found nobody to go to. He didn't know what to do with himself. He was a stranger in town. He went to look for the Feibish family, and he couldn't find them. They told him that the Feibish family moved away 25 years ago. Nobody knew where. He had no friends. He had no relatives. He didn't know what to do. He was a broken young man. He was very tired, so he went into a synagogue, and he lied down on a bench and he fell asleep. In the morning, the caretaker came in and he found the young man sleeping on the bench. And he said to him, "What are you doing here, sleeping on the bench? Why don't you go home?" So he told him, he says, "I have no home. I have no friends. I have no relatives. I don't know where to go and what to do. I have no job. I'm a lost person in a city that I don't know anybody." So the caretaker felt very bad for the poor young man. And he went to the people who take care of everything in the shul. And he told them about the young man who came in, and he has no place to go and nowhere to sleep. So the congregation tried to find a job for the young man in the butcher shop as an helper. The butcher shop was good for him. The butcher, gave him a place where to sleep, and he worked for him until he was able to make some sort of a living. When he was able to make some sort of a living, he got married, and he swore that as long as he's going to live, he's not going to have any children for sale. He had 3 children, 2 boys and a daughter. The one boy, the older boy, when he reached the age that he was able to work, he started to work for a butcher as an helper. And the younger son, Feibish, when he reached his age, he started to work as a salesman in a small department store where they sell all kinds of things. Feibish was a very, very bright boy. He was a good salesman and he made good in the store. He made some money. He tried to save it and to open up a little business of his own. He wanted to become rich someday. He bought a little business, a coal business, in which he tried to make a living from. And eventually he made some money. He saved up and he wanted to have the money for his father, to buy a business for his father, so he don't have to work so hard on his older age. He bought a butcher shop for his father and his brother, and they started to work for themselves. They made a living, and his father was able to take it easier. But Chaim Feibish was not satisfied with what he had. He wanted to have a bigger business. So he sold his coal business and he tried to buy some cattle. He was very good on raising cattle and to try to be a cattle dealer. Eventually, he bought little by little and he bought a big ranch. And he started to raise cattle. And things were going very well for him. He got married and he became a family man. He bought a beautiful estate in the city and he had a very big ranch out of town. And he did a very big business. He was able to get a permit to take his cattle into all the Russian markets where in every town and in every city where there was a Russian market, Chaim Feibish was able to come in. He traveled all over Russia. He had a very big name. Everybody knew Chaim Feibish from the day he started his cattle business. And he was working for many years in the cattle business. He made good. His family, his children lived with him. He took care of them. They raised big families. They had children and grandchildren. Chaim Feibish was the greatest man in town. Everybody went to him if they needed something. He was able to help everybody who needed help. He gave it to them. He was a very good-natured man. After many years, the Russian rangers started to complain that a rich Jew is taking away their business and they don't want them to allow the Russian government should allow him to do that. Eventually, they stopped him going from any markets, any place, and he had to started to lose his business as a cattle dealer. Things went very bad for him. He started to lose all his money. He had to give up all his business. Slowly he sold out the cattle, the ranch, and he lived a very slow life. It took him quite a time to lose all his money. The families of the Feibishes scattered. His brother's children moved to different towns. His sister's children moved to different towns. And eventually, his own children will have to start